And we're going to start off with what is probably the biggest risk for most financial institutions when it comes to their compliance burden, and that is fair lending. Fair lending is one of those issues that I guarantee you've probably heard before at your financial institution, unless this is your very first regulatory training. And if it is, welcome to the club. But you're going to want to remember fair lending because this is one of those areas that the regulators always go back to it. It's one of those risks that, some regulations you can go through, and as long as you are following the letter of the rule, you can generally think that you're okay. Fair lending doesn't really work that way. You can have a fair lending problem and not even know about it. And so we're going to talk through how that rule works. It's a constant process of trying to manage your fair lending risk, mostly because it's such a kind of a nebulous concept. And you need to understand how your regulators are looking at fair lending and then know what part you can play in helping to mitigate that risk. Because, like I said, there's a lot of teeth to the fair lending laws that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But first, why is this such a big deal? Well, in your materials, you can see what the CFPB has to say about it on page 1 there. It prevents opportunities if there is, discrimination in the lending process. It can prevent opportunity and it can make credit more expensive for individuals. But ultimately, I'm probably singing to the choir here. You know that, racial discrimination in the lending process is something that we're all trying to avoid, and we're trying to keep things as fair as possible. And this is the regulatory scheme that really comes down and tries to accomplish that. Now, why I start with a fair lending as a concept and not talking about specific regulations is because there are actually several regulations that come to play when we talk about fair lending. The first one is the one we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. It is the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, or Regulation B. And this is the overarching thou shall not discriminate regulation that we're going to spend a lot of time talking through, because this is where the kind of the primary source of a financial institution risk.